Right, it's going to play with the structuring system a little bit, but let's start off with Aries, video 0201. So we're going to discuss the personality of each zodiac sign and how they function, how they flow, sort of the nature of the beast, as it were. Aries, the first sign of the zodiac, centers very much on identity, purpose of self, who we are as an individual. See, Aries is a fire sign, specifically the mutable fire, cardinal fire sign. Cardinal signs sort of hold sort of a middle ground area, where the mutable energy is usually more adjustable and flows with the situation and the dynamics that are presented to it, and fixed energies are usually very stubborn and held into themselves. Cardinal energy flows are usually more true to the nature of the self, which is where the house of identity sits really, really well with Aries. It's a quest for initialization, a quest for start. Their entire concept centers around who we are and how we present ourselves into the world. Aries being the house of identity, the house of self, the house of purpose, brings out a lot of the energies of what is important to us, what we attribute to our own selves, what we identify ourselves with. Many of us craft identities centered around creeds or jobs or careers. Others, these things are entirely unimportant, and the location of energies of Aries within your natal chart may help to present some of this concept forward. So that's sort of overarching kind of out there. Through each one of the signs, Aries and Sun is usually very outgoing, expressionate, bouncy, excitable, energetic type individual. There's a lot of communicative skills and a lot of quest for wanting to engage with people, because the more they talk and the more they engage with others, the more they learn and start to feel in towards themselves as well. Aries and Moon, your emotions are you're highly sensitive. Basically, if somebody is saying something that's going to attack on the personal core of who you are, you're going to take it way more personally than you should. You wear your emotions probably more on the sleeve than you mean to. There's probably quite often a conflict or a sense of need to be personally satisfied and emotionally satisfied in order to feel like you're actually being true to yourself. Self-gratification could become a bit of a risk with that kind of combination, and there would always be certain perils presented with regards to being able to express your emotions in such a way that others are hearing you in their language. I find with a lot of Aries and Moon, you're usually very in the style and in the format of who you are and how you are. Aries and Mercury, not as bad of a combination, honestly. The dynamic there, the communicative element of Aries comes out very strongly, and there's often strong, deep conversations about who you are and what you want to do in the world and how you want to function yourself in the world. Aries and Mercury enables you to have a lot more of those deeper conversations. Aries and Venus, I find Aries and Venus, they put way too much importance on what their relationship represents to the world around them. There's, again, identity through relationship. Well, if you're identifying yourself with your partner and becoming who your partner is, then there can be a conflict. You give a little bit of yourself, but then you give so much that you wind up snapping back and feeling like you're compromising yourself, and that can become a little bit of a whiplash dynamic with Aries and Venus. Very passionate lovers, don't get me wrong, the combination is going to bring out a lot of passion, a lot of energy, and a lot of want to grab onto what you enjoy and what you appreciate. The big thing you want to be careful with that is that you're not letting that passion override better logic and better sensibility. Aries and Mars is fun. You're going to fight and do what you want, how you want, where you want, and to who you want. It's Mars being that go out and get it, let's do or get it done, and you throw in the Aries dynamic of I'm going to put myself and make myself the priority of all my life and all my actions. You've got a great energy there for self-fulfillment, self-activation, self-initialization. That can make a person a bit of a warhammer, as it were, very, very quick in their actions and their motions to try and strike forward and accomplish things as quickly as possible for themselves. Aries and Jupiter. See, the Jupiter and Saturn portions, if you haven't gone through the planet videos, you should at some point here, just because you gotta remember the personalities on the two of them. Aries and Jupiter works to a point. Jupiter is going to try really hard to give you all the options and all the situations to find yourself. You're going to constantly be finding things coming in your life that help you to explore yourself and opportunities with yourself. You're a Christian, you get an opportunity to go on a mission to every different part of the world. You're an athlete, you're going to get opportunities to travel within the work that you do or within the sport that you do. There's a constant push on discovering yourself, and it's being given to you as a gift by universe. There's a lot of fire and self-identity that comes with that as well too, and a capacity to protect oneself and protect the form of one's own identity would be very, very much enhanced with that. I do think that there would be some struggles in trying to relate oneself to others when you've got that combination, just because the purpose of identity would become so prevalent. But I don't think it should be seen as so much as a curse as it is the obstacle that you have to overcome. Aries and Saturn. I had a conversation with somebody once where they said that they thought the combination of Aries and Saturn was an indication that you did something real fucking wrong in your past lives and you had to kind of go back and look at yourself all over again. And I agree and I disagree. Aries and Saturn is going to invite definitely some, are you sure that's what you want to be, and are you sure that's what you want to do? You might be very, very, very good as a military sniper, but is ending lives really the path that you want to be walking down for the rest of your existence? And I think Aries and Saturn instead challenges you to look at what you're good at and whether it is things that you feel okay with. A person can be very, very skilled in jazz music and absolutely abhor it. Or they could be the best classical pianist ever, but they just want to go down and tango. You're going to find more of your identity sits on well with you when you've got an Aries and Saturn dynamic. The purpose point being, look deeper to what is really crucial to you on a value of intrinsic and spiritual growth, rather than what just feeds the ego in the here and now. And fighting ego is probably going to be your biggest struggle. Aries and Neptune. I always get mixed up on Neptune and Uranus. So if I have to come back and fix this one later, then I'll do that. But Neptune, I believe, is more the community vibe and the energy of the people and social around us. Uranus being more so our own thoughts in a subconscious way, and the subconscious dynamic of what relates to us. So sort of the emotional grander community, and then the subconscious or the cultural grand community kind of being present in other ways. Aries in Neptune. Aries in Neptune is complicated because there's a showmanship. I need to get out there and be seen and be heard. And this is where I think a lot of the Sun Aries try to draw that energy from when they see other Aries that have performed and done so well. I've never met an Aries that doesn't want to be a performer. I've never met an Aries that doesn't want to be on stage. It's how long-lasting that impression is on them really seems to relate to what other Aries placements are within their natal chart. And with an Aries and Neptune, that is your quest. You want to be that entertainer, you want to be that person that's bringing new thoughts, new ideas, and new sources of identity, maybe a little bit extravagant, going out there and being flamboyant or flashy or cutting edge, whatever kind of challenges the status quo a little bit. But it not only helps you to reflect yourself into society, but it helps society to see itself against the actions that you're doing. Your gift to the society basically becoming, you allow us to reflect and look inward on ourselves and what we appreciate about our own natures and what we don't. Aries in Uranus brings out that deeper concept of who are we intrinsically, what is our identity, and what is our core functions. And this is where you would see a lot of Aries falling into connecting with people and engaging with people to kind of bring out some of the better interests. Seeing Aries that might start to gravitate, Aries Uranuses that would gravitate more towards teaching others skills or talents or dynamics of them, bringing them out of themselves specifically though. It's not taking someone that has no interest in whittling wood and teaching them to be the best wood whittler around. It's taking someone that wants to be trained and working with them in that dynamic. And that's where I think the Aries-Uranus energy works very well in allowing a person to discover themselves through your actions and through your steps. Big thing with that one, you have to recognize it does make you very sometimes snap judgmental. You look at people and you can make very, very quick assessments, and that's great. But if you use those assessments and then relate it against your will, you're going to see and judge things in ways that you shouldn't necessarily go down a pen. Not saying that you can't, but you shouldn't. It's more of a consider how you reflect on people and what impressions and what effects and what side effects come out of it as a result, rather than just treating people. You can't treat all people exactly the same because everyone has special considerations that have to be looked into. And Aries and Uranus may not necessarily consider that. And that's one of the things that they have to work through and understand the deeper spectrum of. You're good with identity, the capacity and the tool set's there. It's just working past the hurdles to kind of get into that. Aries and Pluto would be that deep dredge and what fits for us and what doesn't. A lot of people are scared of like this whole Aries and Pluto in Capricorn and how it's going to dredge up the systems and the social structures and everything else. I'm way more terrified about Pluto and Aries because that's going to dredge up who we are at our intrinsic levels. It's going to make us challenge and question every piece of our identity and every piece of our core. And I'll have to double check the spectrums, but because Pluto moves so slowly, it's entire generations that deal with that energy and deal with that waveform. So I'd have to look at the past and see exactly when the past major event was, and I may actually use that in the Pluto video when I do the redo of that sometime in the next month or two here. But that's Aries through the major planet sides. Aries through asteroids will come out sometime later this year.